Thank you, everybody, for joining, and I'd like to thank IEEE for inviting me to present at the blockchain conference today. So my name is Omar Syed with Shardus. We're a small association of developers building a sharded distributed ledger. We're based out of Dallas, Texas, and going to tell you a little bit about what we've been doing and some of the things that we've accomplished. So first, to kind of give you a background about how this all started, back in 2011, my son Amir and I were discussing how money works and some of the alternatives to the current system, and we noticed that if you give a token to every individual on a daily basis as unconditional basic income, and if this token had a built-in demurrage to reduce the supply, then it could act as a inherently stable currency in an economy. And it would have the same properties as sound money, but not require any commodities like gold or oil or anything like that to back it. So we published a paper back in 2011 called Sound Money Without Commodities. And since then, we've kind of envisioned a day when such a system would be potentially used globally by billions of people. And the implementation of such a system should, of course, be decentralized and trustless. So fortunately, we had just come across Bitcoin, and we thought blockchain technology would be the ideal way to implement it. Now, back in 11, blockchain technology was quite slow, and even now it's not very fast. It could only process about 10 transactions per second, and it would not, be able to handle the millions of transactions per second that would be required for a global scale crypto UBI type system. So after, having thought about, how to design kind of, system for many years, we finally set out to actually build it in 2018. So we knew that it would require a radically different design to increase the scalability by 5 orders of magnitude, while still maintaining the robust properties of blockchain, such as decentralization and immutability. So we decided to use sharding, which is a technique commonly used to scale databases, but at the time it had never been applied to blockchains. So the way sharding works is, instead of just one computer processing or holding all of the data, you can distribute the data across many different systems. And what this allows is more parallel processing of transactions. Now, sharding is really difficult to do, and we soon realized that it's really difficult to apply sharding in blockchains because the transactions are grouped into blocks. So our approach was to process each transaction independently and then group them later. So it also introduces the need for a lot of cross-shard communication, consensus, and data sharing. That also makes it very difficult. And depending on the design of the system, this could introduce significant delays for processing the transactions, and especially if a transaction impacts multiple shards. So we've been able to design Shardus so that we can actually do real-time cross-shard consensus and data sharing. Now, 4 years into building Shardus, I'm happy to announce that earlier this month, we were create a 1,000 node network processing 5,000 transactions per second. The network was running globally on AWS using only low-cost computers and no specialized hardware. And in addition to getting a high throughput, each transaction reaches finality in a matter of seconds and becomes immutable. So what's really amazing is that our design is linearly scalable. So what this means is that even though we achieved 5 transactions per second, in the future we could achieve even higher throughput just by adding more nodes to the network. Every node that's added to the network increases the throughput because we use dynamic sharding instead of static sharding. If we had used static sharding, the network would not see a speed up until enough nodes had joined to create another shard. The dynamic sharding is a feature that I think is unique to Shardus, and I haven't seen any other blockchain implement this. We also demonstrated a feature that we call auto-scaling, which is the ability of the network to come consensus on how much traffic it's seeing and decide whether it should increase or decrease the number of nodes in the network. So this allows the network to adjust to the new load using only as many computers as needed, and thus it keeps the resource utilization low, and that translates to low transaction fees. So auto-scaling is another feature that I think has only been implemented by Shardus, and I haven't seen it any other blockchain. So even though our code is currently not open source, we do intend to make it open source in the future. We plan to use a Creative Commons license, and we strongly believe that the production blockchain systems definitely need to be thoroughly reviewed and provide open source code. Now, if you've never heard of Shardus, it's probably because we've never done an ICO or a token sale. We simply give our token to those who contribute directly to the project. Our project never buys or sells the tokens on exchange for another asset. We also don't believe in marketing a product until it's ready. As I mentioned, Shardus uses a Creative Commons non-commercial license. When other projects use the Shardus software to create and launch a blockchain for their own application, we ask that a small portion of coins for the new application be made claimable by Shardus token holders. This rewards the token holders and helps bring users to the new application. Now, enterprises that use Shardus software for private or permissioned blockchains can acquire the tokens and exchange them for a licensed token. The Shardus smart contract provides a purchase license function, and so this makes it possible to see that a license was purchased on the blockchain. In the future, we envision a world where decentralized versions of popular web services like Twitter, Reddit, and Uber, and many more, web services that we commonly use today, could become decentralized. So maybe even something like the crypto-based UBI project that we initially had started. Think about maybe that could also be implemented one day. Scalability of shared smart contract platforms that we have now will not be sufficient for such applications. These high throughput applications will need to be launched on their own dedicated blockchain. And Shardus is working on software to enable such a decentralized world. So if there's any questions, I can take them now.
Does anybody have any questions for Amar about Shardus? I'm looking in the chat. I don't see anything specific at the moment. And I think we still have a few minutes left for questions from for any of the speakers that are still on the line.
And even anybody from the audience, you want to make any comment, feel free to unmute and.
Yeah, because there are a lot of questions and I'm not sure. Some of them I think were answered in the chat. Yeah, so if anybody has any pressing questions, we have about 5 minutes before the next section starts.
And those who are on the call, if you do not have a question, that's all right, but give us a feedback. How was the session 1 so far? Did you all enjoy the variety of speakers, the topics covered? Give us a sense on what went right and what went wrong, especially what went wrong, besides the connectivity. Love to get feedback so that we can come back with better and refined presentation next time.
I think there was a question about blockchain courses. A couple of things I wanted to just point out. We do have some learning modules on our website, blockchain.ieee.org. And also I'll share a survey by CoinDesk on top universities, courses, blockchain research and courses. I'll put that link in the chat.
Omar, there's a question for you. The last one, if you can see that. What problem will Shardus solve?
That other blockchains do not. Yeah, so basically, Shardus is just providing the software that can be used to launch blockchains. So it'll depend on what the developers decide to build using Shardus. Now, Shardus will make it possible to create many types of blockchains that require very high throughput, which otherwise cannot be done. So like the examples that I gave, like if you wanted to build, like say, a decentralized Reddit, that's not going to be possible to do that with something like Ethereum or Solana or anything like that. You'd want to use a dedicated blockchain for that. And currently, people don't use or try to build their own dedicated blockchains because it's just really, really difficult to do that. And so we're trying to provide the software that'll make it easier to just start with Shardus and then add your own application layer and deploy something like a decentralized Reddit or something else. So.
Right. Thank you, Omar.
Mm-hmm.